The venue is really important because it's basically a way we can endorse more what we do with the physical location, because it won't be the same thing if we go in an esports arena to do such a thing. It's like having NBA competition, NBA esport competition at the Madison Square Garden. You know, it's I don't have to explain why it's unique.
The world around us is changing faster than ever before. Ideas once only imagined in science fiction are becoming a reality. Throughout the course of our amazing 23-episode season, we'll speak to some of the greatest minds in robotics and artificial intelligence to discuss the groundbreaking work that's fueling it all. I'm your host, Ryan Marine. Join me and my co-host, Paul Mitchell, the president of the Indy Autonomous Challenge, and see why we call this the Inside Track. This week, we take a deep dive into the world of esports and sim racing. Once seen as simple video game competitions, these digital events now have serious backing from the likes of BMW, Mercedes-AMG, and Red Bull Racing. Today, Paul and I sit down with CEO and founder of the AK Group, Alessio Cicolari. We'll explore some of the ways that autonomous racing and esports compare, and how esports grew from what some dismissed as a gimmick at races to being a respected event. Plus, we'll talk about the many ways that technology from video games could easily end up in a standard family car. Alessio, great to have you on the show. This is a conversation I've really been looking forward to, especially as esports has become a greater part of my portfolio as a sports broadcaster, specifically with motorsports broadcasting. But with you, I'm really curious about the genesis of this. Was esports always something that was an interest to you, video games and then video game competitions, and then it became a business, or how, what was the timeline? How did this passion come into fruition for you?
Yeah, ciao Ryan, ciao Paul. First of all, ciao everyone listening to this podcast. And let's say that I always had in my heart motorsport, and I was always a gamer together with my brother. So basically, when we had the chance to bring the gaming in the paddocks, we made it basically. 2014 or 2015, it was the first time we started doing activities in the paddocks. We wanted to showcase basically that esport can be not just a thing for kids playing video games, but it can be something more. And year after year, we basically raised the bar over and over. So we started with a small championship, Hot Lap Championship in Spa in 2018, with the Esport drivers awarded on the 24-hour podium, with people still laughing a little bit at what we were doing. And the next year, then we did the first championship round by round during the endurance series. So we ran through Monza, Paul Ricard, the 24-hour Spa, Barcelona, and Nürburgring. And then basically showcase that it can be very good, because a lot of drivers was coming to the track side from all over the Europe to compete and to be part of the war. 2020 with COVID, we did a great job together with Fanatec and other brands to still be present in the market. So they were pushing me to create this kind of content. And 2021, after a long period of development together with Fanatec, we created this unique environment, the Fanatec GT Pro Series, which is the first activity ever that you have a blending between the real sport and the esport.
I want to go back to the esports arena that you talked about. And Paul, I was there in 2021 at the 24 Hours of Spa, covering that race when they had this arena set up in the paddock. And I'm not sure I could do justice, Alessio, to just how cool that esports arena was. Can you explain for people who haven't seen it what you pack into a pretty small little footprint within the paddock, but it's packed with really, really cool technology and is can't miss if you're at one of these events?
Yeah, it's really challenging because if you used to be in the paddocks, you know very well that the space inside the paddocks is really tight, and once you are there, there's a lot of complication, and especially for our technology, which is not really like a racing car that can really not depend on external services, but we need to rely on a power, internet, a very stable connection, and a lot of IT working behind the scenes. So we need to build everything in a few days. Normally we start as the first day that the paddock opens, because obviously we need a lot of time. And in 2 days we built the arena, which is 25 per 20 meters space. And it's the biggest hospitality there is in the paddock during the GT World Challenge. So we it's not just a game. So we need to be very sure that everything is set correctly. The drivers come to the arena to do their rig setup. So they test their rigs, they do their, let's say, fine tuning like they do with the normal car. So they set everything. Then behind the scene during this process, we have also the production, the race direction, all the social media establishing in back of the arena in a very tiny space. And we basically have all the production on site together with the arena. So you can imagine we basically run through all the different issues during the past 3 years, from power outage, internet outage, and a lot of crazy stuff that happened during the battle. One time when we were in Spa, 2019, we had also a very mad guy that just basically unplugged the power from the wall because he was upset that we didn't allow him to try the simulator during the competition. Probably he was drunk, but it was funny because he just unplugged everything during half of the race.
So Alessio, I think we've been talking about the similarities and the connection between what Indy Autonomous Challenge is doing and what you've been doing, pioneering in the e-racing space. And I think that one important commonality is the venues, right? These racetracks are more than just a track for race cars. They're venues that people come to and feel a connection to motorsport. They're typically located in beautiful locations. We've run at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, at Monza, and in Las Vegas. These are iconic settings, and so the virtual drivers in our case and the e-drivers in your case, they want to go to these tracks, right? They want to be there. So how important is the venue in your case?
Yes, right. The venue is really important because it's basically, let's say, a way we can endorse more what we do with the physical location, because it won't be the same thing. We go in Esports arena to do such a thing. It's like having NBA competition, NBA Esport competition at the Madison Square Garden. It's I don't have to explain why it's unique. Obviously, it bring a lot of complication because I've been in Vegas to see the Indy Autonomous Challenge race during the CES, and it's you don't understand that all the challenge you have to face, because those spaces are not meant to be so highly technology.
Yeah.
So you can probably understand those kind of challenges.
Yeah, I mean,
when
just
you're in the venue.
Just an example of that. We ran an event at Texas Motor Speedway, and leading up to it, with our sponsor Cisco and others, we had all kinds of plans to activate and utilize the big jumbotron. I don't remember what it's got.
Big Hoss.
Big Hoss.
Big Hoss. Yeah.
That's a very Texas name. So we were going to use Big Hoss to show the broadcast, to have commercials. It would have been really cool. We did something similar at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but there is no jumbotron at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So
right.
we were super excited about this and had all kinds of plans. And during our testing rounds leading up to the event at Texas Motor Speedway, teams started to realize that Big Hoss was interfering with their GPS signals and the frequency that the cars were operating on. And, we had to make a decision in conjunction with the track, in conjunction with the sponsors. What do we do? Can teams overcome this? And in the end, we had to turn Big Hoss off for the event. And so, in some ways, the testing and validation we're doing with our Indy Autonomous Challenge cars, and you're doing, Alessio, with your activities in the paddock, is proving out those different challenges and use cases that the tracks need to overcome.
Yeah, it's true. Also, I had that conversation with AWS many times, which is also our sponsor in our activity. So there are similarity also in that case, that they are able even to bring part of the cloud system on track, because some of the track are not really well connected. So they are able also to bring part of the cloud data center with all the connection and infrastructure to be able to deliver the same service they are doing normally, like F1, for example, that they need a lot of data exchange, even if they cannot basically change settings on the car by regulation, not because they can technically, but is a thing that's with the job we are doing in the Esport and with the autonomous challenge, also with the real car, can maybe create new technology for the future, for the real motorsport, for the standard car. And we see already that some of the technology we developed for the Esport, in this case in terms of broadcast, now a lot of people is also doing for a standard broadcast, because they saw that it was smart. It's cheaper also, because Esport doesn't have, let's say, the same budget the real sport has. So basically, you have to be smarter. We can develop. I'm talking about Esport right now, but I know that also with the autonomous challenges, our technology that now they use because they need to run the car in a competition, but one day can be used for a regular car or for a new technology that can be included on the new racing cars, maybe.
Yeah, I can relate to a lot of that. That sounds like a lot of things that I'm dealing with too on a weekend by weekend basis. And I'm curious about this, the fact that esports now in many ways is leading motorsports in terms of developing some of these new technologies. And earlier you talked about the reception that your esports champions got on the podium at Spa in 2019. And, people weren't necessarily sure what to think about this, with the esports drivers being recognized alongside those that had raced together. But increasingly, we're seeing that perception changing. We're seeing esports being able to lead the way. I think one interesting innovation, you talk about Fanatec, they make equipment for esports competitions. Well, the new BMW GT3 car, the steering wheel is one that you can take off of this new BMW race car and plug into your home sim rig, and vice versa. So in many ways now, we're seeing greater integration between esports and actual motorsports. And with that, Alessio, are you seeing the perception of esports changing in the public at large?
Yeah, you're right. The challenge that Fanatec faced with that wheel was just the first one, because now I don't know if you saw also Mercedes AMG that they created directly, not even for the simulator, a SimQ wheel that is now on the GT car, and it's something that can really do the job I was telling you before. So less development cost, which can do the same job as the regular equipment, and development in this case can really push ahead a smarter production. And I would say yes, basically this way to do things once upon a time was just a sort of joke for someone, but especially, and I don't want to say thanks to the COVID, because it's nothing good with COVID, but at least the thing that helped us to showcase more was that a lot of people was doing esport during the lockdown, including the F1 drivers. And since then, I'm going to lie, but the hours allowed simulators and equipment for simulation at the time was like crazy. So we couldn't sell as much as we wanted at that time, because everyone was jumping in. And now when we talk about this kind of thing, a lot of people, companies, journalists, they are talking seriously.
Alessio, part of our focus with this podcast series, is AI and what is the role of AI in motorsports, in autonomous vehicles, in society. So clearly, AI is a big deal in the world of esport, right? There was a lot of headlines that were made when I think an AI driver did incredibly well in I think it was Sony's Gran Turismo competition, and so I guess a question for you is, do you see AI as a positive thing in e-racing? Do you see it as a threat where the AI drivers, just clearly start beating all the human drivers? And so what's the point? What is your view of the role AI plays within esports?
Yeah, I think AI obviously is the next big thing. It was already. It's not just today. Now AI is in everything we use and we do. And sometimes you have to check if something is true or not, and it's generated by AI. It's complicated. But for esport, the first thing I can see is the risk of cheating for sure, because if I can develop an AI that's driving on my behalf, it will be difficult to check, obviously, because if an AI is able to control my pedals and wheels like it's doing in your cars, basically, which are sending the input to their actuators, for the throttle, for the braking system. So at the end of the day, a wheels and pedal set for esport is by wire, so there is no hydraulics. So it's very similar. But aside from that, I will say that can be cool for sure for training purpose. It's big stuff, because if I want to train the best, having an AI that can give me advice based on my own way to drive and tell me what basically I can brake later or exit better in the corner. It's a job that normally is the race engineer is doing, but a race engineer has got just a limited quantity of data to analyze and a limited experience, even if it's a good race engineer. So having said that, for me, it's a good thing, but we need to write proper regulation, as in the other field where AI is taking place. There is a lot of complication when AI is taking over the human. So for sure, it won't be like substituting the human, but the human needs to be able to handle the development of AI.
It's interesting to think about where AI is in its journey. And in many ways, AI in the digital environment and esports for now is in the digital environment, although you and I have talked about how do you blend an esport. There literally could possibly be somebody driving a car in an esport track, and it's replicated in a car virtually in the Indy Autonomous Challenge. So there may be a future where you have an AI driver versus a human esports driver. But in the digital realm, AI is getting to the point where it is better than some of the best drivers, and therefore it's used as a training tool, as a competitor, etc. But in the physical world, AI in the physical realm, where we are within the Autonomous Challenge, we still have quite a ways to go, right? So, if you take one of our cars and you put it out on a track against a top IndyCar driver or race car driver, they're gonna whip us, and our car will get confused and probably would stop racing at this point. But where AI was 5 years ago in the digital realm versus where it is today, that is trending toward moving into the physical world. And so when we think 5 years out, 10 years out, 15 years out, the progress that's being made in the digital world will start to transfer into what is a more complicated challenge for AI. And, I think that opens up a lot of opportunities, particularly for safety and mobility, right? Because, being able to see an AI driver in a digital world operate safely and efficiently is great, but it's the physical world where we need to save lives. We were talking to Sebastian Thrun, and he was mentioning that a million people a year die in auto accidents, and so this technology, once we see it saving lives, is going to really, I think, change my belief is it'll change the public's view and acceptance of the technology in that use case, in the use case of mobility, where it's not making ethical decisions necessarily. It's not making decisions about public policy or deciding what's true or false, but is operating a vehicle or an aircraft in a way that is more efficient and safer. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so that's, let's say that what you're doing with the autonomous challenge is basically a little bit different from sim racing, because AI in the digital world is basically you are simulating the real world, but in reality. Because at the end of the day, the AI is simulating everything in the software, but he has to apply the decision in the real world. So for sure it would be more difficult, because it's about also to improve sensor, to improve actuators and everything. And I think also that's why probably you have such a huge sponsor, because that is like with F1 and the motorsport. No, he raised the bar, the aerospace with the other technology. So they need to have something more, because in the standard autonomous vehicle is not, they're not going 200 miles per hour. They will never go at that speed. But if you find a way to develop a technology that can really work in a good way at that speed, probably is a lower speed can do like do the same thing like eating a pizza. No, right. It's kind of easy stuff. And the thing is that for sure saving life is a target for the technology you're developing, in my opinion, not just in the standard cars, but even in the motorsport. Because if we will able to develop technology that really can avoid people's mistake, because so far in my car, if I brake too late, probably it doesn't allow it to block the wheel, but if I'm too fast, I will still crashing into the wall and stuff.
Well, that actually anticipated my question. I'm curious what role you feel esports has to play in developing some of this technology, because you look at things like heads-up display and the amount of data that's available to a gamer or a sim racing professional to make their decisions to be a safer driver in the sim world. We're seeing some of that stuff, especially in the heads-up display, creeping into road car technology today.
Yeah, for sure. Let's say that the sim drivers can really act as test drivers. Yeah. Because honestly, the only difference is that to apply the decision the AI or the software is doing, obviously Paul and his team need to transfer that command to the wheels, to all the dynamic of the vehicle, which is not easy to manage for sure, because thousands of data that you can have more. Obviously, in the computer it is easy. All the physics of the computer is generated by the computer. So, in my opinion, as we were saying before, it's a cheaper way and faster to reach the target. Because otherwise, if you're doing in real life, how many test drivers you have and the need to risk their life, probably also to do testing on such a tool. No, you cannot just go flat out into the wall to see if the car is like stopping or not.
This is a really important point and something we've talked about, Alessio, the ability to homologate, to create a common platform for autonomous algorithm training, which our teams in Indy Autonomous Challenge use and benefit from greatly. Like, for example, the teams are now at Monza doing track days, and of course you can't get that many track days. You can't run hours and hours and hours, day after day at Monza. So before they go there, they've got all kinds of detailed models of the track, and they're running them in AI simulators. And if you think about an AI simulator, you see them today that we use. They're not really meant to reflect graphics or a graphical user interface for a human e-racing driver, because everything's happening in the background, and the point of the visual aspect is just for the team to kind of have a sense of what's going on. Reality is the team doesn't even need to see it. They can just kind of get the report after the simulation is run. But so this this merger of the sophistication of what was gaming and into simulation and into a level of simulator that is right there aligned with the best autonomous simulators is something that I think we can do as an industry fairly easily. I mean, it's not a huge leap from where e-racing is today and where the autonomous simulators are today.
Yeah, it's really interesting how AI can really work in every field, even in esport and gaming, to deliver industrial content. And automotive is still one of the big business in the world. No? Right now, it's a matter not just to develop autonomous vehicles, but in my opinion, the next big thing on automotive will be a mix of the two things. Because on the freeway, I would like the car to drive itself. But honestly, when I drive myself on my mountains or on the hill, I want to drive myself. With a little bit of more safety, that would be cool for sure. Mm-hmm. And especially if all the cars will have some autonomous intelligence on board, so we avoid to do stupid things in two different cars, which can happen all the time.
Finally, from me at least, I'm curious about the future of esports, and especially with the development of virtual reality and the level that has gone to. You hear Paul talk about that augmentation of virtual and real, bringing those things together. Then you add AI into the mix. Where do you see esports headed with these new emerging technologies and developing technologies looking 5 or 10 years down the line?
Wow, 5-10 years. 5-10 years is very long forecast for esports, especially. Let's say virtual reality, augmented reality, and AI together can really make the difference next years. I'm more into augmented reality because obviously it can be more flexible instead of the virtual reality. I would like to have like a sim driver racing in a simulator, but actually racing a real car on track. So as Paul was saying before, maybe we can do in short time with autonomous challenge is something that is triggering a lot of me. So it's I see this kind of activity because virtual reality is already there, is already strong. I mean, a lot of development also in the automotive is relying on these tools.
Last question I have, Alessio, is Indy Autonomous Challenge is very much a global competition. We're holding our first event now in Europe at Monza. We have teams from Asia, from throughout Europe, from the United States. Your work and the progress that's been made in esport and the blending of esport with motorsports events in Europe has been incredible over the last handful of years. What are your plans over the next couple of years to take what you're doing to the global scale?
Let's say that our big target is for sure United States. So it's not a secret. We are working very hard to make this happen in a short time. I think the market now is ready. U.S. market is different from the European. You're right, but not because they say in United States they don't love motorsport. In United States the motorsport is little bit different from European. So we don't know very well the American motorsport, and Americans probably don't know very well the European motorsport. That's why. No, we rely on F1, but you come to US, and in US, okay, F1 is getting bigger, but still in Indy and NASCAR. So we are not talking about our let's say championship. But I realized that let's say the passion for motorsport is even higher. So I saw a lot of competition, even with everything with wheels, basically. Obviously, we need to deal with the budget, with equipment, with everything, but it's happening. So it's just a matter of when, but it's not a clue that we are going to do this. And next up would be for sure Middle East is growing a lot. Obviously, it's not a secret that the budget in Middle East are like blowing for different reason, but it's a region which is really growing a lot in motorsport and also in sim racing. Asia for sure is another big, but it's really too much fragmented. It's not easy to manage, and probably won't be our target. And Latin America is another big region where motorsport and sim racing especially can really have got good results, but obviously it will take time.
I hope so. Looking forward to seeing you at a racetrack here in the States very, very soon.
If you need an announcer,
that's right. I already made my plug even before we started recording. So absolutely. I know, and I got to be involved in the SRO America Esports Championship in 2020, like you're talking about, when everybody wasn't at a real racetrack for a few months there. We found a way to replace it virtually, and that certainly went a long way to changing perceptions, I think, to esports generally. But that's another conversation for another time. For now, Alessio, we have to be conscious of your time. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed the conversation. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on The Inside Track. That was Alessio Cicolari, CEO and founder of the AK Group, helping us understand how the growing world of esports is contributing to some exciting new technology. Next week, we'll take a look at how some of the technology being developed at the IAC has found its way into a few more industries than just race cars. Author and AI evangelist for KYP.ai, Sarah Burnett, joins us to offer her research into how AI might start saving lives both on and off the track. Thanks to the IEDC and the IAC for keeping us on The Inside Track.